I remember the first time I met Daniel Reed. We were 12, scrapping over a football in the muddy park of Oxford. "Oi, that's mine," I shouted, lunging forward. He laughed, dodging me with that cocky grin I would learn to trust too much. "Finders keepers, Miller," he said, tossing the ball just out of reach. I punched his shoulder, and he shoved back. We both tumbled into the mud and laughed so hard our stomachs ached. That was the beginning, the start of a bond that felt unbreakable. "You're late again," Daniel said one evening in our flat on Holloway Road, tossing me a rolled blueprint. I groaned. I got stuck with a client. "Don't lecture me," I muttered, wiping sweat from my brow. "Lecture? Me? Never." He grinned, leaning against the counter. "But you've got to stop taking everything so seriously, Ethan. Life's short. Architecture's long." I shook my head, exasperated. "And yet somehow I still clean up your messes." He laughed, that familiar, reckless laugh. "That's why I keep you around, mate. We had started our firm together right after university. Dreamed it into existence from nothing. I worked the numbers, the proposals, the late nights at desks, stacked with paperwork. Daniel chased the clients, smiled his way through every negotiation, charmed everyone. We balanced each other, or so I thought. "Do you ever sleep?" I asked him one morning, finding him on his phone again. "Sleep is overrated," he said, without looking up. "Besides, Sophie's on the line. Big investor." I frowned. "Sophie Turner." "You know her," he shrugged. "She likes what I say." That's all. I said nothing, but a knot tightened in my stomach. I didn't want to see it, the way she whispered when he laughed, leaned close to him in meetings. Small red flags I dismissed. I told myself I was overthinking. After all, Daniel was my best friend. He'd never betray me. We worked late that night, the office dim, rain streaking the windows. "Remember Oxford?" I asked, leaning back in my chair. Daniel smiled, staring out at the streets below. "Of course. Mud, football, your terrible aim," I laughed. "And your constant luck," he smirked. "Some things never change." I didn't know then that everything would change. That our brotherhood, our shared dreams, would crumble overnight. It started subtly. Missing calls, evasive answers. Then came the meetings I wasn't invited to, the whispered phone calls he hurried away from. "It's just work," he said when I pressed. "Don't be paranoid." I nodded, forcing myself to believe him, forcing myself to trust him. But trust has a way of breaking quietly before it. Shatters completely. I first realized the betrayal on a Tuesday morning. I arrived at the office, cup of coffee in hand, ready to finalize the contract for a new project. The receptionist looked at me like I had lost my mind. "Ethan, the company?" Daniel signed it over. "Sold everything last night?" "Sold what?" My voice trembled. "Daniel, he can't. He did," she said softly. "He left a letter for you. Said it was just business." I stumbled to my desk, my hand shaking. My fingers grazed the envelope. Daniel's handwriting. Familiar, friendly, deceptive. I read it, and my chest felt hollow. "I'm sorry, Ethan. I had to do what I had to do. Don't take it personally. Best of luck." I dropped the letter. Stared at the blank walls of the office that we had built together. Every plan, every sleepless night, every dream we shared, gone. I ran. Out into the rain, coat sticking to me, boots squelching in puddles. My thoughts screamed his name. "Daniel, my brother, how could you?" I remember thinking, through the sting of the cold and the betrayal, that life had changed forever. I had no company, no partner. Only the echo of laughter and football in muddy Oxford fields. The memory of a bond I had believed unbreakable. And Daniel had become something else. Someone I barely recognized. I sank onto a bench, drenched, heart pounding, the city moving around me. I whispered into the rain, "You were my brother. My brother, Daniel. And now you're just a stranger." I pushed open the office door and froze. Papers were scattered across the floor like autumn leaves, and the walls were bare. The logo we had spent years designing, debating over fonts and colors, was gone. My desk felt hollow, stripped of the life we'd poured into it. Ethan, Daniel said, leaning casually against the far wall, smirk still in place. It's just business, mate. Don't make it personal. Just business. I echoed, my voice trembling. You sold everything? Without me? Without even telling me? He shrugged, flipping a pen between his fingers. I told you. Just business. You should be thanking me for making the hard choices. I laughed bitterly, stepping closer. Thanking you. You ruined everything we built. Do you have any idea what this means? My career? Our clients, our lives? Relax, he said, smirking. I handled it. Everything's fine. You'll bounce back. You always do. I wanted to grab him, shake him, scream until my voice broke. Instead, I sank into the chair, staring at the floor. Fine? Fine? Do you even hear yourself? Daniel leaned forward, eyes glinting. Ethan, don't take it so personally. I did what I had to do, honestly. I shook my head. Honestly. You betrayed me. You were my brother, my friend. Everything we dreamed of together, gone. And you stand there smiling. Smiling? He asked, tilting his head. You'll laugh about this one day. Believe me. You're too stubborn not to. I grabbed my coat, my hand shaking. Laugh about it. How do you expect me to laugh when you just destroyed me? He watched me silently, his smirk fading slightly. Look, Ethan, you're making this harder than it needs to be. You're overreacting? Overreacting? I spat. I trusted you. Everything I was, everything I am, I shared with you. And you just threw it all away for what? Money, he didn't answer. Just leaned against the wall, arms crossed, pretending I wasn't shaking in anger and disbelief. I stormed out, rain slapping against my coat as I ran through the streets of London. My chest felt tight, my hands numb. How could someone I loved like a brother become the person who ripped my life apart? At home, Emily was waiting, arms crossed. You look like hell, she said softly. I am hell, I muttered. Throwing my bag onto the couch, she came closer, sitting beside me. He didn't just take your firm, Ethan, she said quietly. He took your faith in people. Your trust. I stared at her, silent. She was right. Trust had been the foundation of everything, and Daniel had smashed it without a second thought. I don't know what to do, I admitted, voice breaking. Everything we built, everything I believed in, gone. All because I trusted him. Emily reached over, grabbing my hand. Then stop trusting the wrong people. Learn from this. You're strong enough to rise again, Ethan. You always are. I pulled my hand back and wrapped my arms around my knees, staring at the window as rain traced streaks across the glass. The city lights blurred, distorted, like my thoughts. Never again, I whispered to myself. I'll never let anyone do this to me again. I can't trust so easily. Emily stayed silent, letting me sit in my grief. She understood. She had always understood. Hours passed. I didn't move. I didn't eat. The rain outside grew heavier, echoing the storm inside me. I thought about Daniel's, murking, unrepentant, pretending nothing had changed, and a cold fire rose in my chest. One day I told myself he would pay. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day. And when that day came, he wouldn't see it coming. But for now, all I could do was sit in the dark, listen to the rain, and feel the weight of a betrayal that had hollowed me out completely. I whispered again. This time louder, you'll never take me down twice, Daniel. Never. The rain had soaked me through by the time I reached the entrance of the charity hall. My shoes squelched against the cobbled stones, and I cursed under my breath. Of course it rains the one day I'm catering outside, I muttered. A voice behind me startled me. Ethan. I froze. Slowly I turned. Clara Reed, standing there, umbrella half collapsed, coat plastered to her frame. She looked smaller somehow, quieter than I remembered. Her eyes widened, and I caught a flicker of something guilt. Maybe fear. Clara, I said cautiously. You remember me? She swallowed, glancing away. Yes, Ethan. I didn't expect, It's been a while. Months, I said dryly. Oxford hasn't changed much, but you look different, paler. She laughed nervously. Rain does that. In London, life does that, doesn't it? I stepped closer, keeping my tone neutral. It does. So, what brings you here? She hesitated, glancing toward the hall. I'm attending the charity event. Daniel couldn't make it. He's busy. Her voice faltered slightly. I heard about everything. The company. I didn't know, Ethan. Truly, I didn't. Blinked. Her eyes soft, sincere held me in place. You didn't know? I repeated. My voice was rough. You're his wife, Clara. How could you not know? She shook her head, strands of wet hair clinging to her face. He's Daniel. He's very careful about what he shows people. Even me. I only learned bits and pieces after the fact. I never meant for him to hurt you. I want to believe that, I admitted, lowering my gaze. But it's hard. Really hard. She stepped closer, hesitant. I can't imagine what it felt like losing everything. Having your trust, everything taken. I'm sorry. I wish I could have stopped it. I swallowed. Her apology wasn't just words, it carried weight, a quiet acknowledgement of shared pain. Thank you, I said softly. It's strange hearing that from you. I've spent months hating Daniel, but hearing this from you, it's different. She nodded. Different how? Less bitter, I confessed. Less hopeless. You remind me that not everyone is like him. Not everyone betrays the people they care about. Her lips curved in a faint, sad smile. I didn't realize I could make a difference just by speaking. I didn't think I'd ever feel warmth again, I said quietly, almost to myself. But now, seeing you here talking to me, I do. Clara's eyes softened. I never thought I'd meet you here like this, alone, outside the chaos. I shrugged, looking down at the puddles. Chaos seems to follow me. But somehow, this moment it's calm. Strange, isn't it? It is, she agreed. And I'm glad it's calm. Even if it's just for a little while. I glanced at her, noticing how the rain highlighted the lines of her face, the tiredness in her eyes. Clara, I don't know what comes next. I don't know if this is complicated. You're his wife. And my voice faltered. I'm still angry. But I can't deny I'm glad you're here. She looked at me, her voice barely above the rain. I feel the same. I shouldn't. I know it's wrong. But it feels like we understand each other. Not him. Not anyone else, just us. I felt a strange pull, a warmth I hadn't felt in months. Maybe shared pain does that, I said. Brings people together who shouldn't be together. Yet somehow, it makes sense. Clara nodded, biting her lip. It does. But I have to go. Already? I asked, a flicker of disappointment rising in my chest. Yes, she whispered. I shouldn't linger. Daniel, or my life. But Ethan, she paused, eyes glistening. Thank you. For listening. For understanding. I swallowed hard, watching her disappear down the wet steps. My chest ached, but it wasn't just pain. It was warmth, strange and unexpected. I hadn't felt that in months, not since everything fell apart. I muttered to the rain. Maybe there's still people worth trusting. And for the first time in a long while, I believed it. Fancy seeing you here again, I said. Sliding into the seat across from her in the little Oxford cafe, Clara gave a small smile, fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. I didn't expect to find you here either. I come here sometimes when I need quiet. I nodded, stirring my own cup absent-mindedly. Quiet seems rare these days. She laughed softly. Tell me about it. Daniel, he's barely home, and when he is, he's either angry or drunk. I feel like I don't even exist anymore, I winced. I know that feeling. Betrayal? It's like drowning. You can't breathe, but you can't escape the water either. You just keep swallowing it. Her eyes glistened, and she whispered, That's exactly it. Exactly how I feel. I leaned back, letting silence stretch between us for a moment. The cafe buzzed softly around us, but it didn't matter. We were in our own bubble. You remember the old architecture project back in uni? I asked, trying to lighten the mood. Clara chuckled. How could I forget? You spent 3 days arguing over the placement of a window. Daniel kept saying it didn't matter. I thought I'd never survive listening to you two. I laughed, the sound hollow at first, then warmer. And you were right. He was hopeless. But somehow, we survived. That feels safer to remember than now, her smile faltered. Survive together, yes. But some things don't survive the real world, Ethan, like trust. I nodded slowly, eyes downcast. I know, I thought I had it all figured out. Daniel, my best friend. And then everything fell apart. I trusted him more than anyone. More than myself. She reached across the table, hesitating, then touched my hand lightly. Ethan, I know he hurt you. I can't undo it, but I swallowed hard, my pulse quickening. I should have pulled away. I knew I should. Clara, you're his wife, I whispered, almost a plea. I can't, I shouldn't. Her fingers lingered. I know, but it doesn't change what I feel, or what I understand about you. I stared at her hand, the warmth seeping through me, and for the first time in months, I felt something other than bitterness. I feel the same. But guilt gnaws at me every time I think about it. She gave a faint, sad laugh. Guilt. That's the one thing I never expected to share with anyone but him. Funny, isn't it? I shook my head. Not funny. Painful, but comforting somehow. I don't know, it's strange, feeling understood after everything. Her eyes softened. We understand each other because we've both lost something important. Something that matters. Maybe broken people find each other for a reason. I let her words hang in the air, tasting their weight. Maybe you're right, I admitted quietly. It doesn't make it simple. It doesn't make it right. But it does make it real. She nodded, glancing down at her cup, fingers curling around it. Real is better than pretending. Better than hiding behind smiles while our insides rot. I leaned forward, voice lower, almost a whisper. Clara, it's terrifying how much I care about you. How much I want to help you. And I hate myself for it because Daniel... Her hand squeezed mine lightly. I care too. And I hate myself for it as well. But we can't help what's in our hearts. I swallowed, heart pounding, warmth spreading through my chest. I haven't felt this in months, not since everything fell apart. Not since Daniel turned my life upside down. And now you. Her eyes met mine, steady and soft. Maybe we need this. A little light in all the darkness. I nodded slowly, the world outside fading for a moment. I don't know what comes next, I admitted. I don't know if it can ever be anything beyond this. But I want to be here. With you, even if only for now. Clara's lips curved in a faint, fragile smile. Even if only for now, she echoed. We sat in silence, holding on to the fragile connection that had blossomed in shared pain and whispered confessions. Outside, the rain pattered softly against the windows. I let myself breathe, for the first time in months, feeling something warm, something fragile, something worth holding on to. Later that night, lying awake, I traced the memory of her hand against mine. I whispered into the dark, maybe broken people really do find each other for a reason. And for once, it didn't feel like a curse. I was in my small Oxford flat when my phone buzzed. It was Tom, Ethan, he said immediately. No greetings. You need to sit down for this, I frowned. Sit down for what? Daniel's firm, it's collapsing. Bad investments, unpaid clients, Sophie Turner's stirring things up. It's chaos, mate. Absolute chaos. I felt a flicker of satisfaction, dark and bitter. Sophie, that snake, I muttered. I should have known she'd turn on him eventually. Tom chuckled. And karma's doing the rest. Honestly, Ethan, it's almost poetic. I leaned back in my chair, gripping the phone tighter than necessary. Poetic or not, it doesn't undo what he did to me. No, Tom admitted, but it's close enough. Close enough to enjoy. I hung up and stared out the window, watching rain blur the streets. A thought crept in, dangerous and tempting. Should I expose him? Show investors what a fraud he's become. Watch him fall in front of everyone he humiliated me with? I shook my head, trying to dismiss it. But the thought refused to leave. I made my way to Professor Graham's office later that afternoon. The old man looked up from his papers, brow furrowed. "You look unsettled, Ethan." "Thinking," I said carefully, pacing the small room. "Daniel's company, it's collapsing. I could expose him. Let him take the fall. Publicly, he deserves it." Graham sighed, steepling his fingers. "You could, yes. But ask yourself this: would that define you? Would your life be better? Or would it let him control your morality even in ruin?" I stopped mid-step. "Control my morality?" "Yes," he said firmly. "Hatred is his legacy, Ethan, not yours. If you act out of revenge, you become the very thing you despise. Remember that." I nodded slowly, conflicted. The fire inside me, the dark craving to see him humiliated, battled with the reason he had once instilled in me. I understand, but it's hard not to feel satisfaction. Watching him flounder, knowing he's losing everything. "You can feel it," Graham said. "But use it carefully. Let it fuel your strength, not your wrath." I left the office, mind churning. Later I met Claire at the Riverside Cafe, the sky gray and low. She looked fragile, shoulders hunched as if carrying the weight of her husband's failures. "He's paranoid," she whispered, stirring her tea without looking at me. "Daniel, he's losing everything, but he still acts untouchable. It's like he's desperate to prove he's untouchable while the world crumbles around him." I listened, the tension inside me twisting tighter. "And you, how do you deal with it?" Clara shrugged, eyes wet. "I don't. I just watch, and try not to be caught in the crossfire." I wanted to reach across the table and tell her it was okay, that she could lean on me. But a voice inside reminded me she was his wife. The man who ruined me. My pulse quickened. Maybe I began, voice low. Maybe it's time I confront him. Not to fight, not to scream, not for revenge. But to end it? To close this chapter for good? Clara looked up sharply, eyebrows raised. "Ethan, do you think you're ready for that?" "I have to be," I said firmly. "For me, for my sanity. Watching him flail from a distance, it's not enough. I need closure. He needs to see that his actions have consequences." She studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Just be careful. He's dangerous when cornered, but I trust you'll do it right." I swallowed hard, staring at my coffee. Doing it right? That means staying calm, staying in control. Not letting him drag me down into the anger he's so used to. "Exactly," she whispered. "And remember, you have someone in your corner now. Don't forget that." Her words lingered as I walked home, the drizzle soaking my coat. The dark satisfaction that had been simmering inside me all day now felt sharper, colder, edged with purpose. Not hatred, but determination. I replayed Tom's call, Graham's warning. Clara's eyes, each a piece of the puzzle I was putting together. By the time I reached my flat, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't undo the past. I couldn't bring back what Daniel took from me. But I could face him, see him confronted by the truth, and walk away without letting the darkness claim me. I sat by the window, watching the rain blur the city lights. My hands trembled, not with anger, but with anticipation. Tomorrow, I whispered to myself. Tomorrow, I end this, and I do it my way. Clara's face flashed in my mind, her fragile strength, her quiet understanding. And suddenly my purpose became clearer. I wasn't seeking vengeance for its own sake. I was reclaiming myself, proving that betrayal would not define my life. And for the first time since that letter, that office, that betrayal, I felt ready. I stood outside Daniel's mansion, the same house where we had thrown our first celebration, laughter echoing through the grand hall. Now, it was silent, dim, cold. Rain streaked the windows. Mirroring the storm inside me, I pushed the door open, boots squeaking against the marble floor. "Daniel." My voice echoed from the shadows. He appeared. His once charming grin was gone. His face looked older, lines etched deep, eyes hollow but defiant. "Ethan," he said, voice clipped, "you finally decided to show up." I laughed bitterly. I had to. Someone needs to witness what happens when you betray everyone who trusted you. He tilted his head, mask of arrogance back in place. Trust. You were too soft for business, Ethan. Always were. That's why you never succeeded on your own. I shook my head, stepping closer, fists clenched. Soft, maybe? But at least I didn't lose everything. You didn't win, Daniel. You just lost slower. His jaw tightened. Slowly or not, I played the game better than you ever could. You just waited for me to fail. I laughed again, sharper this time. Fail. Daniel, look around you. Your empire is gone. Clients vanished. Investments failed. Sophie Turner backstabbed you. Karma caught up. You think this is winning? He glared, stepping closer. You think you're better than me? That you're some moral victor? Don't act like this changes anything. I built this world. You just sat back. You built nothing, Daniel, I said, voice low but cutting. You destroyed everything you touched. I didn't destroy you. You destroyed yourself. I just watched. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. Defiance flickered in his eyes, but it was weaker now. The bravado, the charm, the cocky certainty was gone. I felt the anger surge. The temptation to strike him, to make him feel even a fraction of the pain he caused me. But I didn't. I breathed instead, letting the words cut deeper. You had a brother, Daniel? A friend, and you threw it all away. For what? Money? Ego? Control? He laughed, hollow, bitter. You think I regret it? No, Ethan. I did what I had to. You would have never understood. You were always too sentimental, too soft. I shook my head, stepping back. I understand plenty. I understand that loyalty, trust, love, those are worth more than all your money. And you traded them for nothing, he faltered. And I saw the cracks, the exhaustion, the paranoia Clara mentioned. His shoulders slumped, eyes darting to the door, then back to me. You think this is over? It's over for you, I said quietly. Your empire? Destroyed. Your pride? Crushed. Your illusions? Gone. That's your reality, Daniel. He looked away, silence stretching between us, heavy and suffocating. Then, quietly, almost like a whisper, he muttered, I didn't think it would end like this. I shook my head again. It always ends like this, when betrayal drives the choices. You made your bed. Footsteps on the stairs drew my attention. Clara appeared pale, fragile, tears streaming down her face. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her eyes said it all. Shock, sorrow, disappointment. Watching her stand there, witnessing both our pain, made the victory bittersweet. I took a deep breath, feeling the release of years of anger, grief, and betrayal. You already destroyed yourself, Daniel, I whispered, voice low enough for only him to hear. I just watched. He stared at me, lips pressed tight, pride and shame warring in his expression. I turned toward the door, boots heavy against the floor, but lighter in spirit than I had been in months. Clara's sobs were quiet behind me. I didn't turn. I couldn't. That image, her sorrow, silent yet raw, would stay with me forever. But I didn't allow it to weigh me down. Not anymore. I paused at the threshold, hand on the door. Goodbye, Daniel, I said, voice steady. May this be enough for you to learn? Maybe one day. He didn't reply. He couldn't. The echo of our confrontation lingered in the empty halls. A reminder that some battles are won without striking a single blow. Outside, the rain had stopped. The streets glistened, reflecting the city lights like broken glass. I inhaled the cool night air, letting it fill my lungs. For the first time since he sold our firm, I felt a clarity I hadn't had in months. Freedom, justice, a strange kind of peace. Clara appeared behind me on the steps, silent but present. I didn't speak. She didn't need words. Our shared understanding, pain, betrayal, compassion was enough. I walked away from the house, boots echoing softly on the wet stones, whispering once more under my breath, You already destroyed yourself, Daniel. I just watched, and this time, I believed it. Clara was waiting at the little cafe on Turl Street when I arrived. She looked different, lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted. Her coat hung loosely, hair tousled from the brisk Oxford wind. Eyes wary, but softer than before. "Ethan," she said quietly, voice catching slightly. "Clara," I replied, sliding into the seat across from her. "You look free." She gave a small, tired smile. "I think I am." I left him. Finally, it wasn't easy, but it had to be done. I nodded, swallowing hard. "I'm glad. I'm glad you're safe, that you're here." She reached across the table, fingers brushing mine. "I've been waiting to see you," she admitted. "Not because I needed a replacement, but I needed someone who understands." I took a deep breath. "Clara, I need to confess something. I've carried it for months. Anger, jealousy, confusion, it never left me. I thought I'd never feel anything other than bitterness again." Her eyes softened. "Ethan, you didn't lose your heart. You just gave it to the wrong person." I shook my head. It wasn't just him. It was me too. For trusting blindly, for loving what I shouldn't have, for believing in loyalty where there was none. I hated myself for feeling betrayed, hated myself for caring. She squeezed my hand lightly. "You shouldn't hate yourself. Feeling is proof that you're alive. Proof that your heart is still whole." I laughed bitterly at first, then softer. Whole. I felt broken for months. I couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight. Every time I remembered his smirk, the letters, the betrayal I wanted to scream. "I know," she said, voice trembling, "and I understand. I lived in shadows while he destroyed everything. I pretended it didn't hurt, but it did, Ethan. Every day." I leaned closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "Clara, I was afraid of being happy again. Afraid that any warmth, any trust would just get ripped away. But seeing you here, I feel it again. That warmth, that hope." She looked down, nibbling her lip. "I feel it too. I've been carrying guilt for staying with him, for not leaving sooner. But now it feels like I can breathe. And it's because of you. Because you see me. Not the mistakes, not the past. Just me." I reached across, cupping her face gently. "You don't have to apologize for surviving, or for being human. We've both been through hell, Clara, but we're here, together, and that counts for something." Her eyes glistened, and she whispered, "I was scared, Ethan. Scared that leaving him would ruin everything. Scared that trusting anyone again would only hurt more. But you make it easy to believe in people again." I shook my head, swallowing back emotions I hadn't let surface in months. "Easy? Nothing about this is easy, but it's real. And real is worth it. Real is enough." She leaned into me, her forehead resting against mine. "I've wanted this. Not passion, not distraction, but someone to understand, to hold me without judgment." I wrapped my arms around her, holding her for the first time. Not in lust, not in desperation, but in understanding. Quiet, human, real. The weight of months, the anger, the grief, they all began to lift as I felt her tremble slightly against me. "I forgive you," I whispered. "Not Daniel, not him. I forgive myself for letting him define my world, for letting him steal my trust, my hope. I forgive me." She looked up, tears in her eyes, a smile breaking through. "And I forgive myself too. For staying too long, for letting him shadow my life, for letting fear decide my happiness." I held her tighter, letting the silence between us speak the words neither of us could have said aloud. The rain outside pattered gently against the windows, blurring the city lights. But inside it was warm, safe. Ours. "I didn't think this was possible," I said softly. "After everything, betrayal, loss, I didn't think I could feel this. Alive. Free." "You are," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "We are." And in that quiet cafe, surrounded by the low hum of conversation and the smell of coffee, I realized something I hadn't for months. Pain doesn't last forever. Betrayal doesn't define you. Love, understanding, they can heal even the deepest wounds. I kissed her forehead gently, resting my cheek against hers. Broken, yes, I whispered. But free. We're broken, but free. She smiled, soft and fragile, and I knew it wasn't just a smile. It was relief. It was hope. It was the beginning of something real. Something neither of us could have expected, yet exactly what we needed. For the first time in months, I let myself breathe. Let myself feel. And let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, love can bloom in the ruins of what was lost. I was making tea when the post arrived, an ordinary morning until I saw the envelope. My name was written in shaky handwriting, Daniel's. I hesitated before opening it, heart thudding. Ethan, I whispered to myself, tearing it open. The first line made me freeze. I'm dying. I sat down immediately, tea forgotten, fingers trembling. He wrote about regret. It's about how he chased success and power but found emptiness instead. I thought success made me powerful. I read aloud softly, voice catching. But I only ever wanted to be what you were good. I read the lines again, slowly, letting each word sink in. My chest tightened, and the tears I hadn't felt in months began to fall. Clara's voice was in my mind. Broken, but free. I whispered it under my breath, and the tears flowed harder. I read the letter a third time, each word stabbing and soothing at once. I wish I could undo the damage I caused. I wish I could have been a better man, a better friend, a better husband. I closed my eyes, letting the emotions wash over me. Anger, grief, sadness, and strangely a quiet relief. He was finally admitting it. Finally acknowledging the truth he'd ignored for years. Daniel, I whispered, the name tasting bitter and soft all at once. Later I found myself at the small church where the funeral was held. His coffin was modest, the room nearly empty. I stayed quiet, letting the silence speak for me. Clara was beside me, pale but steady, her hand brushing mine briefly. I squeezed it, finding comfort in her presence. The priest spoke words of farewell, but I barely heard them. My mind was on the letter, the shaky handwriting. The finality of everything Daniel had caused. I approached the coffin slowly, feeling the weight of years pressing down on me. I took a white rose from the vase, holding it in both hands. I forgive you, I whispered, barely audible. Not for you, for me. Clara stood quietly, eyes glistening. She didn't speak. She just held my hand lightly, the silence between us saying more than words ever could. I placed the rose on the coffin, lingering for a moment longer than anyone else might have. The wood was cold beneath my fingers, but the act felt like closure. A punctuation mark on years of chaos. Clara leaned closer, voice barely above a whisper. Maybe forgiveness is the revenge he never saw coming. I looked at her, the tears still falling. Yes, I whispered back. The only revenge worth having is freedom from the past. She nodded, resting her forehead against my shoulder for a brief moment. We survived him, and now we can live. I exhaled, letting the breath carry away the last remnants of anger I had harbored for so long. Live, I repeated softly. For us. For everything we lost. The priest concluded the service, and I stepped back, watching the pallbearers carry the coffin away. My eyes stayed fixed on it, remembering the man I had once called brother. The man who had betrayed me, who had caused Clara so much pain, who had finally written a letter from the edge of death. Goodbye, Daniel, I whispered, voice breaking. I hope you finally understand what mattered. I hope you're at peace. Clara squeezed my hand again, guiding me toward the exit. We walked in silence through the cold cemetery, the wind carrying away the echoes of the past. Do you think he ever really understood? She asked softly. I don't know, I said, looking at her. But it doesn't matter anymore. He's gone. And we were free. Free from him, from the anger, from the weight of his choices. She nodded, eyes shining. Free, we paused at the gate, letting the sunlight catch the dew on the grass. It felt fragile, beautiful, like a new beginning after a storm. I let myself breathe. Truly breathe, for the first time in years. My chest felt lighter, my heart steadier. The past was behind me, carried away like petals in the wind. I never thought I'd feel peace again, I whispered. But I do because I chose it. Because we chose it. Clara smiled, a genuine, quiet smile. And that's all we need. I reached out, holding her hand firmly, grounding myself in the present. All we need, I agreed. As we walked away from the churchyard, I felt the weight lift entirely. No more bitterness, no more rage. Just Clara beside me, and a life waiting to be rebuilt, honest and real. And for the first time in years, I felt ready to live. Clara was perched on a stool, sketching frames for the studio walls. The soft yellow lights we'd hung made the space glow gently. The scent of fresh paint and paper filled the air. This looks perfect. Ethan, she said, stepping back to admire her work. Like it's alive, I smiled, brushing my hand over one of my old sketches, now framed and hanging. It feels alive, I admitted. Not perfect, but real. That's enough. She laughed softly. Real is better than perfect any day. Remember how you used to fuss over every line in your projects? Now look at you letting things breathe. I shrugged, trying to hide the pride I felt. I had to learn. Life doesn't give second chances. Or maybe it does, but only if you let yourself see them. She moved closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And you did. You let yourself see it. You built this. I nodded slowly. I did, and you helped me. I couldn't have done it without you. You brought light back into a place I thought would always be dark. Clara smiled faintly, eyes catching the glow of the lights. I'm glad I could. But Ethan, you've done the hardest part. You forgave, and you kept moving. That's why this works. That's why you're here. I glanced at her, feeling warmth spread in my chest. I think I understand now. Some wounds never fade, but they stop bleeding. That's what healing really is. Not forgetting, but learning to live through it. She nodded, leaning on my shoulder for a brief moment. Exactly. And now we can start living again, not just surviving. I laughed softly. I never thought I'd say this, but I'm happy again. Calmly happy. Not the rush of joy that comes and goes, but steady, like building something that lasts. Clara's fingers brushed mine as she held a stack of sketches. It's steady because you've earned it, and because we've learned to carry the past without letting it weigh us down. I picked up a frame, staring at the lines I had drawn years ago. I still think of Daniel sometimes, I admitted quietly, voice low. But without anger now, without bitterness, just reflection, lessons. Pain turned into perspective. She smiled softly, tracing the edge of the frame with her finger. That's all we can ask for. Reflection without chains. The past teaches us it doesn't have to haunt us forever. I nodded, taking a deep breath and looking around the studio. The soft light, the sketches, the quiet hum of the city beyond the windows, it was ours. Alive, fragile, and real. You know, Clara said, tilting her head, I think this place, it's a beginning. Not a clean slate, but a canvas we can keep painting on. I smiled, reaching for her hand. Yes, a canvas we can shape. Together. She squeezed my hand, eyes bright with unspoken emotion. Together, she repeated. I leaned back against the counter, letting the peaceful energy fill me. No shadows, no grudges, just the calm of a life rebuilt. Some wounds never fade, I whispered, looking at the sketches and the soft lights. But they stop bleeding. Maybe that's what healing truly is, not forgetting the pain, but learning to live through it. Clara rested her head on my shoulder, and I felt the steady, quiet rhythm of our shared heartbeat. For the first time in years, I knew that after the storm, the sun could shine again.